things, when you look at research on yourself, that one of the things I came across is that you also became a touring guitarist and keyboard player for Tight Fit.
Yes.
Raise the eyebrows on that one.
The reason for that was we got such a piddly amount from CBS for my solo contract that for me to move forward, I wanted to keep the keyboard player after the Q-Tips because we'd been writing songs together and arranging songs together. And although I thought the songs were okay, I thought where our arrangements were going was very interesting, you know. So I wanted to keep working with Ian, but I couldn't afford to pay him a salary. So he said, well, I'm going to have to go out and earn some money, put some money in the bank, and then we can get started on your solo stuff while we try and find a producer and all that sort of thing. So anyway, he got the job to MD Tight Fit, who did
We all know that
exactly,
one. Yeah.
And so they'd worked about 3-4 hits, and they decided to go out on the road, but it actually wasn't a real band. So Ian got the job of being the musical director and putting a band together, and he came back and said, well, you can't do anything, you're going to be sat at home waiting for me to finish this tour. So I've told him that you can play good guitar. I went, what? I haven't even got one. I've only got an acoustic. He said, you better buy an electric quick then. And I've told him he can play keyboards as well, which obviously I said I had a rudimentary knowledge of both, but hadn't really got on top of it. But I was kind of the backup guy, so technically there was a keyboard player that could play the lead stuff. So all I had to learn, I could do chord patterns, things like that, you know, and I could play some rhythm guitar and stuff. And so basically I got paid as well and walked into that job. It was only for one tour.
So 1985, Best British Male at the Brit Awards. How's that feel when you walk on stage to receive that?
Yeah, it's a big jump. That's a big leap from where I was before. And like I say, it was more than I'd thought about when I was 17, I think, because I thought about having a success in the UK, like the bands that I loved. I mean, I read that they may have been successful in Japan or somewhere else, but that meant nothing to me. You know, I lived in the UK. So so by the time I got that award in 1985, things were happening in Germany, things were happening in Australia and New Zealand, and this was all new territory for me.
Of course, 85, obviously, Live Aid happened. I mean, quite an amazing concert. I remember watching it that day. I was in Sheffield, and I watched it all day. And it was a phenomenal concert. I think at my age, watching that, I mean, for you to walk on stage, even now when I look back, and as I've watched, you know, the likes of you and everybody who walked out on stage, that must be an amazing feeling walking out onto Wembley Stadium, as it was Wembley Stadium, the real Wembley Stadium, with that amount of people there cheering you on.
I think that was definitely my biggest concert to date. Let's forget about Wembley Stadium, but talk about the fact when Bob Geldof comes on halfway through my set and goes, "We're now hooked up to America, you know, and the world is watching." And then he went off again, and oh, great! And last thing I wanted to hear. I was just getting used to being at Wembley, because the biggest thing I'd done previous to that, I think I did 6 nights in a row at Wembley Arena, which probably mounts up to almost Wembley
the total
Stadium.
amount of what it is. And you have the nerves that you go on stage at that point. I mean, you hear stories of these artists, even in those days, you know, you walk out on stage to that kind of reception. You know, there must be that element of nerves as you go on, because they're there for all of you.
Mm. Yeah, although the thing about that was, it was so many people that, well, the whole thing was going by the seat of its pants, as they say. You know, nothing of this magnitude had been done before. We were all thinking how we're going to do this. There's so many technical things to think about before you went on, and things that were going on while we were on stage. We were hearing U2's road crew sound checking the equipment while we were playing, and it was really off-putting. But you know, there's so many technical things, but you had to just go out there and put a show on, even if it was for 20 minutes, and do the best you could.
An amazing show it was as well, and most people didn't realise actually that it was a revolving stage. I do remember reading actually that the revolving stage kind of got stuck at one point.
Yeah, I think it was split into thirds.
Yes.
So there was us, you two were coming, I don't know, maybe they were on 2 after me, but they were sound checking anyway, you know, so it would revolve around, then they would come on with their equipment all set up, and they'd be taking hours off of 3 and putting the next band on at 2, you know, and so it went on. So that was the best way to be able to do it.
And do they know it's Christmas? We all know it, and it's been remade on a number of occasions. I can't remember how many, 3, 4 times it's been remade, but still the original is what everybody comes back to. You open with the first 3 lines. Every year I'm sat in my car driving around, I know, with friends and everything else, and it's still great to hear that. I mean, that must be quite something, because way past our lifetimes, that's still going to be going.
Yeah, that's probably the one that is still going.
Yeah. You don't hear the other ones. And
No.
how did that come about? You know, there are great stories about how Bob Geldof was trying to draw everybody in to come and do this song, and everybody turned up on this day. How did it come about?
Yeah, I got the phone call because by this point I was so busy working the first album that I hadn't seen what was going on in Ethiopia. I barely saw any TV, so he kind of enlightened me and told me about the plan. I think they got through to my manager first, and he said, "Look, Bob wants to give you a call about this thing, and it sounds like it's going to be amazing." So he told me about what was going on, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm up for it." And I didn't know much more than that until I got there, and everybody was feeling their way again. It's the first time ever it's been done, you know, to turn a record round that quickly, make sure it gets to number 1. You know, this massive plan. They were still working out who was going to sing what as we were all arriving, so they just couldn't arrive at who was going to sing the first lines. I'd already got a section in the middle. I thought, that's my bit, you know, now I can relax until we film the choruses. But then they called me back in and asked me to give the first few lines a try. And apparently I found out when I toured with Midge only a couple of years ago, he said, "Oh yeah, we tried a few actually."
That's Midge from Ultravox.
Yeah. And it was Midge and Bob, you know, that put the record together. So he said, "Yeah, actually we tried a few." And I didn't know that up until 2 years ago. But I got the thumbs up.
And I suppose, you know, you're coming from there. I mean, some of your highlights of your career, the Freddie Mercury Tribute Concert, Radio Gaga.
Yeah.
I watched that a number of nights ago. I mean, great concert. I mean, there's still that. I was watching something a couple of nights ago about 1984, and they were actually talking about Queen and that song and that point of Freddie Mercury standing there at Live Aid, and you're watching the whole crowd clapping along. You had the same response when you were on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
That's
powerful.
not my doing. No, that's Freddie's doing.
I know, but you're singing it. Whilst it's, you know, Queen and Freddie Mercury, you're there, and I mean, that's quite, I mean, what an experience.
Oh, it was an incredible feeling to be able to do that. Oh, we hear is, and it did look. I mean, I think they purposely put cameras at the back.
Oh, it was amazing.
For those situations like that, you know. But also, they learnt so much when they did the Live Aid that the next biggest concert that I think was the Freddie Mercury one. So the filming was that much better. They'd learnt so much where to put cameras for maximum effect, things like that. And I think that is probably more impressive in terms of watching it as a show, you know. Yeah. So, in fact, I watched it. I'd forgotten all about it, and then someone said, "Have you not seen it?" And I watched it again. And I was a little bit, wow, that's a lot of people.
So you've toured the world. You did an exhausting touring schedule in the US. You did 13 live shows in 14 days.
Yeah.
That must be quite intense, especially singing. I mean, you've got powerful voice. You're on stage, and your stage persona is quite intense. And I've seen you knee sliding across the stage, jumping across the stage. I mean, it must be an intense and a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah, it was. But the thing was, if you've been working and working and working, trying to get to some place of achievement, and then it all starts to happen for you, you say yes to anything that comes your way. So I knew, and we discussed it was going to be tough, you know. So I was, although I thought I was mentally prepared for it, you forget about the excitement of being in America for the first time and doing all these things. And not only that, I was doing a promotional schedule while I was doing the live shows. So I was working in the mornings, flying, shows in the evenings, getting up early, flying, flying ahead of the band to do the interview, or staying while they drove to the next one. Then I'd have to do the interview, fly, sound check, gig. So it was just too much. And we had 13 shows in 14 days, but on the 12th show I collapsed from exhaustion and didn't get to do the 14th show, most important one in New York.
Best city you've ever performed in, outside of Live Aid and London and Wembley? Which is the best city around the world do you think you've ever performed?
It's so
I know it's
so
a difficult
hard
one. Yeah.
to say.
What's your favourite?
Wembley was always a favourite because
Hometown, home turf?
yeah, hometown, home turf, and also I didn't live that far from Wembley, and what was great was I could come off stage at Wembley. They would have the car wait for me. I'd be home in 15 minutes.
That helps.
That's great. But then you've got the loneliness of getting home. You've got all this adrenaline, and you've got to try to work it off.
Go in and make a cup of tea.
Exactly. Sometimes we did stay in the hotel next to Wembley, like a lot of people did. But I think further down the line, the more I was doing it, we thought it's probably best that I don't, especially when you're doing 6 nights in a row.
So in 1987, you went to Milan and you worked with Zukuro.
Yes, I
Now,
did.
Zukuro, obviously, I met him with you, but I almost didn't realise that actually Zukuro gave Andrea Bocelli his big break,
Yes.
in a sense of that. But how was it working with Zukuro? I mean, he's quite an amazing artist.
Well, yeah, but he was not very well known outside of Italy at that point, and because of this was the point where my record company really wanted me to do a duet, and I'd really lagged on it. Mick Jagger and David Bowie were doing Dancing in the Street. Rod and Tina did something. Everyone was. It's funny how you get this, and then that's how everyone was doing duets. And I couldn't find somebody that I really, really wanted to work with. And then when I did, Zukuro, and went to the record company and said I wanted to do a duet with this guy. I said, "Who is he?" Because he was massive in Italy, and not outside of Italy. And they were initially disappointed, but then I said, I really like the song, and I do try and make artistic decisions as much as possible, rather than for financial reasons, And I felt that artistically, I liked the idea of stretching into working with international artists as opposed to homegrown.
After Zukuro, was there anyone else you wanted to duet with at that point, or were you still kind of focused on you just want to be Paul Young? I mean, they look at, when's the next album, and do you then do the greatest hits, and how does all that come about?
Well, once again, I've never really wanted to do a duet with anyone. It's by happenstance. And so Zukuro approached me, and I liked the idea. Clannad approached me to do a version of Both Sides Now that was in a movie called Switched. And I liked the idea once again because it was left field. I like left field ideas. And that worked really, really well. Then I bumped into Chaka Khan at a Stevie Wonder concert, name dropping away here, where we all got up and sang Happy Birthday to him at Wembley and sang his own song back at him. And Chaka was there, and I said I was doing a song she did on the Rufus-sized album that I bought when I was 17. And she said, well, I could do it with you. And I went, great, and we did. So they've all happened kind of by accident rather than design,
What are the songs that you've turned down that have become international hits?
I haven't turned down songs that have become international hits. I've turned down artists that are massive. Well, actually, let's put this straight. Whitney Houston, but she'd made one album and it's very big in America, and so they were going to make the second album. And I'd seen the photos, and she's got a lovely voice. I went, oh yeah, I'm up for that. I didn't like the song. Unfortunately, I said so, but the producer had written it, so I signed my own death warrant on that one. Aretha Franklin, I love the idea of working with her. but at that time they hadn't got a song, and I thought, I've heard what she's doing now. She's updated her sound to a very 80s sound, and I'd rather go back a little bit and fall between the two stools. So I said, well, I'll be interested to hear a song. And then the next thing I knew was there was a song, and George Michael had taken the reins, you know. So I missed out on that chance. So it's been more artists that I'm up for the artist, but there either wasn't a song or I didn't like it. And I'm honest with myself. I say,
water and a milk from a hole in the roof where the rain came through. What can you do?